Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the podcast from Pastor Email. Welcome back. First, let me say thank you to everyone who has been watching our podcast. You've been liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. We are so grateful to you. We are coming live with a very special edition of our podcast room called the Father Son Chat. So this is going to be so dope. We have some great men from our church who are sitting with us, and we're going to get into some really good conversation. But I need you to make sure that you are commenting, comment, hit that bell so that every time we drop a video, you are notified. All right? This is going to be really, really good. Everybody good? Everybody ready?
Yep.
I want y'all to just be open, be honest. I want to start with this question. What were your own experiences with your own fathers? Like, what was your experience with your dads that shaped your manhood? So I say what shaped your manhood, not your fatherhood, because what I've learned, and if you want to push back on this, I'm all for it. But I've learned that it hasn't really shaped my fatherhood because I didn't have a dad, right? My dad died when I was 5, so that couldn't have shaped the type of father I was because I didn't have one. But it did shape my manhood, which influenced my fatherhood, right? So as far as your experiences with your dads, your own dads, how did that shape your manhood, which influenced the type of fathers you guys are today? Let's start. You knew I was going to you first.
It was good. It was a lot of times, a lot of people. The thing is, there are kids that grow up that don't know their dad or their dad passed away or whatever. And somebody said, well, at least you had your dad around. But I would have to say in what capacity it was he around.
Yeah.
Okay, because my dad was around. He was there. He was a great guy and everything. But I didn't learn a lot from him.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't learn to say I love you and to be affectionate or anything like that. I watched him work. I watched him be a good, lot of fun, lot of all of that. But I never took it as he did it out of whatever. My dad was born in the 30s, so that was a whole different generation that came up. So as far as for what he came from, he was a great dad. But now as I move forward, I'm learning it's a lot of stuff I didn't get from him. As a man, learning how to be a man, he had his own business. He worked hard. He came home every night, so that part about it you learned. But it's only half of, to me, what makes, especially if you're married and have children.
Right.
So I did, I had him, I knew who he was, whatever, but it's not like I just got this whole pad of stuff that I'm going, my dad always taught me, because I don't have that.
And does that land anywhere in your life now when you feel like any regrets that you didn't learn as much from your dad, or?
No, it doesn't, because I knew he did not teach me because of.
Okay.
It's a lot that we do now that we just couldn't. It just wasn't the way life was when we came along. From the time that I was 9 till I was 12, I lived with my uncle, so I learned a lot. From when I was 12 till I was 21, I learned a lot about the real world from my uncle.
Okay.
Then coming to Pilgrim and sitting up under a bishop who talked about a whole lot of stuff. So it was a lot of stuff I gleaned, but truthfully in my heart I was saying, wow, I never knew that. So you would never just go, my dad didn't teach me that. But, I think that's why Archbishop was such a breath of fresh air, because it's a lot of stuff he taught. He don't even realize a lot of fathers missed it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and like I said, knowing the era that he came from, I thought my dad did a great job. But it's just not a lot I learned from him.
Right. I think, and then Trevor, I want you to go next. My dad died early, like I was young, so I didn't have that father figure, which made me as a man be very intentional about engaging in relationships, right? Not just with my family, my children especially, but because I didn't grow up with that, I'm like almost hoovering. I need it. So as a man, not having my father shaped the way I want to have interactions. I know I probably drive the boys crazy, especially because I'm always like, I want to be involved. I want to be around. They were asking me when would they be able to take the bus and stuff by themselves. I'm like, never. Like never, because I would have done anything to come out of school and have my dad waiting for me.
But that's the thing. You don't, not meaning to just say something that everybody say, but you don't miss a well till it runs dry, or when you're without it, you don't realize like, wow, this is because it's every day. He doesn't know anything else, but I've been there,
Right.
so it's just
Right.
it's like, what are you even talking about? Like,
Right.
my dad does that, or my mom does that, or whatever. And it's very rare when you have a male that didn't have a mom in his life.
Mhm.
So when you have people like that, yes, what you're saying, how much you would love that, but the boys are used to you.
Yep.
That's all they know.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy. If you go, well, what if your father wasn't there? They're like, what are you even talking about? He is there.
Right.
So I get what you're saying in that. Let me commend you, because it usually goes either two ways. Either when you don't have the dad, you repeat the cycle, or you strive hard to break the cycle.
Yeah.
So that's what
Cycle
your thing
breaking
was.
is definitely a thing. I think as black men, we got to be really intentional on. Trev, what was your experience with your dad, and how did it shape the man, and how did it influence your fatherhood?
2 minutes, Pete. My dad, he was around, but I didn't live with him, so it wasn't like, I mean, there was a part of my life I lived with him when I was younger. Then whatever happened, for whatever reason, we wasn't. But he wasn't never absentee or anything. Like I could always call him and he would show up, and I knew how to get in touch with him. I knew where he was at. Like there wasn't no reason I couldn't talk to him or speak to him. But for whatever reason, he just wasn't. That wasn't the plan for me. And I had to come with the understanding of that as I got older. Yeah, he was my dad, but everything I learned about fatherhood and everything was shaped in me was from Archbishop Roy Brown. So everything I learned about fatherhood and manhood, I learned from Archbishop Brown. But I had a dad as well, so. But that wasn't the plan of God for my life. So whatever I didn't learn from my natural father, I had to learn from my spiritual father for whatever reason it was, which took me a long time to fully understand. Like I had to really come to grips with that almost up until when I think I really grabbed hold of it after my father passed. It was like we didn't have a bad relationship. I loved my father loved me, but there weren't times where he would put his arms around me and say, hey, I love you, or we have that man-to-man conversation. But that wasn't for me during growing up. So I had to understand that wasn't what God had intended for me. So it was hard to understand, but as I got older, I finally understood everything and how God works and what God wants for your life, and I accepted it. But I had a wonderful relationship with my dad. Like it was certain things that he did that I picked up on, like being handy and working with tools and stuff. That was something my dad was big on. Anybody that knew my dad, they knew they could ask him to do any kind of handiwork, and it was like that's just what he did, and that's something that I picked up from him. So and it shaped who I am today. So there's parts of my natural dad that's in me and parts of my spiritual father that's in me that I just try to blend it all together to become who I am today.
I'm curious if, although you learned so much from Archbishop, did it ever negate how important your biological dad was to you? Like, how were you able to separate that? Like,
No, it was never a problem. Like y'all, everybody know every time Bishop went somewhere and I roll with him or whatever. If I pass by and I see my father, I'd be like, "Hell, Bishop, there go my dad," and he'll stop the car and let me go speak to my dad. It wasn't like, "Oh no, you can't go speak to him. He's not actively in your life." It was like, hey, "All right, there's your dad. Go ahead, and I'll catch up with everybody later." But it was never a problem. Like it was never no. Hey, he's bad. He's this. Archbishop never shunned him. Never talked bad about him. I don't care whatever he did. It was always like, "Yo, that's your dad. Speak to your dad. If you gotta go speak to him." But it was never no, "Hey, you can't go speak to him. You're with me right now. You're riding with the bishop. You gotta stay."
And that helped you maintain a respect for your dad no matter what. Yeah, definitely. What you got, D?
I'm pretty much like Pete. I didn't grow up in the same household with my father, but my father taught me a lot of values. My father grew up in the church. He was a church musician, but we never lived together. He lived in Chicago. We lived here in New York. But every summer or sometime, maybe other summer, he would come visit us. He would take us out. We had a communication where we would talk to each other. We was never felt lost, but we was never in the same household, grew up together.
Mhm.
And I, like everybody else said, I pretty much learned a lot of my values from Bishop. I grew up being around a lot of older men. So I
Okay.
learned, like, a lot of people from the church, I grew up with their husbands and so on. And I learned how to be a man from being around them, what you're supposed to do. I watched Sister Whitehead husband take
Okay.
care of his family.
Okay.
And I grew up with him driving his car. That's where I first started driving. And he
Wow.
was more like a father to me than my natural father, because I saw him every day. And it's only until I got older, when I started being around Bishop, it taught me how to be more of a father than I really was. It taught me how to cherish things, how to respect people. And I must say this, those who have a father that's in the same household with them, bringing them up, don't count that as a blessing.
Yeah.
Count that as a real blessing that you got your father in your same household, because so many families now are without fatherhood.
Yeah.
And they're growing up with just the mother.
Yeah.
And the mother can speak bad about the father, and then the child will take that inside his spirit and
Yeah.
be negative thoughts against the father,
Yeah, definitely.
and for no reason.
Yeah, definitely. I think the dynamic is changing though, because I drop my kids off, pick them up, and I see so many more dads doing that now.
That's good. That's
And
good.
I find it to be so inspiring. Like I know you take side every day. Like back in the day, that wasn't a thing.
That
It
wasn't
was
a
just
thing.
like something your woman does.
Yep.
But seeing so many men step up to do that, that's how you break cycles. That's how you break
That's
cycles.
how you break it.
What do you guys have, Steph or Dre?
So, growing up with my dad, I had my dad in my life, in the household. So, just our relationship, just watching him. I mean, I used to look forward to every Saturday morning. He would take us all to go grocery shopping or whatever, and literally like while we're there, he's teaching me, hey, this is how you do this is how you do that. He was like a super for a building, so like when there were different activities or different things that had to be done, like I was always like underneath him and just learning as much as I can. So that definitely just shaped who I am. So like just me in general, always busy, always working, always just trying to be as supportive or as active as I possibly can. So between that and then also coming to church and having Archbishop and getting those extra teachings, it was definitely great and shaped my manhood and kind of shaped my fatherhood. And I'll also say like having a daughter that did not grow up in my house, it was real tough, because those conversations I couldn't have. And when he would try to try to have the conversation with me, it was almost like, hey, I hear you, but do you kind of really get it? Because the interaction or the relationship, the things you can control, was very different. So that definitely shaped how I am as a man. That definitely shaped how I am as a father. Just tried to be there, like you said, being more active in PTA and different things like that. Just in my work as an educator and going to programs and different things like that. The greatest thing for me that I could say, and I'm proud to say, like as much as my mother would sit there and listen to me talk about math and my projects like for hours and for 15 hours upon hours. If I ever called and my dad got on the phone, he would sit there and listen to me for a few minutes. And the key thing was, at the end of that conversation, it was just like, I'm proud of you, I love you. Mm-hmm. And he would get off that phone, and that was like the biggest thing for me. Yeah. So, just having that example was like great, and I just try to mirror him as much as I possibly can.
And it anchored you too, because you had a father in your house, and although your daughter grew up separate, you were still able to be a consistent father because your example was consistent. So that, I think we take more from our experience than we actually think. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's definitely, I feel you. What you got, Steph?
I think for me, the biggest thing that I learned coming from my father was that just being present. Like, I didn't grow up with my biological father, so didn't know him, didn't meet him, and then I think, when did you come to my 10, 11? Yeah, 10. Where it was like, at that age, I mean, because like I think my two closest friends also didn't have their father, so it wasn't like foreign to me. It was like the idea, it wasn't like I had a bunch of friends who had their father, so it was like I was longing for it. Wow. But it was like when he came in, and then it was like just being present, like just going to taking me to play baseball, and then being present, like just doing stuff that like fathers do with their sons that I didn't realize I was missing.
Yeah.
So it just definitely taught me the importance of being there, which is why yeah, for now for Sai, it's just like cool. I just want to be there because
everything.
Yeah, and it just
For
means a lot.
everything.
So yeah.
Yeah. But up until 10, though, were there thoughts of, but I guess no one that you grew up had a father, so it wasn't a thought to you at
Yeah,
all?
it was like one of my close friends. His father was around, but he didn't live with his father. So it was
Okay.
like when we would see him be around, it was like, oh, that's your father. But it wasn't like like they had their relationship, but I wasn't used to seeing them. And then my
Yeah.
other close friend, it was just him and his mother and his sister. So it was
Yeah.
like the dudes that I grew up with, none of us had our father. So it was just the way it was. So I didn't even
Right,
really
yeah.
think about it as much until I got a father. Yeah.
Right, got you. Let's do Deacon Benjamin. Then I want to throw it to the sons, from the sons' perspective. What it was like with
Edwin here. I didn't
talking to
grow
like
up with my father, right? So I grew up with my father. I had no problems. I learned a lot from my father. There are things that I miss about my father, which is like great. That's the oldest thing. There are things about my father that I miss, which is crazy at times for me, right? So,
why do you feel like that's
well,
crazy?
my father's deceased, right? So there are things that I can't even really explain it, but there are things that he would do that he would foresee. And I understand the whole planning thing, but I mean, for him, it just seemed always so natural. And I can't emulate, so I'm always trying to think, and I overthink
Yeah.
at times, and I shoot myself in the foot. But he just, like the thinking guy, and it always seems so smooth, so seamless. Like this is gonna, and me, I'm doing it. I'm going right to Z. No, you got to do A, B, C, D before you get to Z. So for me, he was an amazing guy. I miss my dad still, because even before he passed, he was still talking to me. So I was still learning things from my father. So, I can't, I have nothing bad about my dad, nothing.
True.
So the only thing for me that I had to learn, right, as others have mentioned there, that loving part. So that loving part came for me when I went to the military, right? And somewhere there it clicked to me that I could die, right? Just that, here's your reality, you could die tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment I said, I gotta change. So my thing was, hey Dad, I love you. He was like, what? I love you. Hug me, embrace it. And since then it was, I love you. We recognized my mom same way, and it became a more open thing to love, to hug, to embrace in a positive way. So that was a good thing for me.
Yeah.
So that was the catalyst for that change as far as emotions go.
Right.
But everything else I learned about planning and to foresee and to plan a thing, to jump into a thing. From my father, watching my father treat my mom like the queen she is, right? I mean, we get up early. She worked nights, so it would be almost slow down. She worked nights, so it would be my mother that would take us to school because my father worked days.
Right.
So you would never see a guy around. You would see ladies around, and when you see my mom, she'd be tired. Right, everybody's like, Mom's looking all fresh and good. They going to work. My mom tired. She's like, I'm going to work. This is go to school. I'm watching. You better go inside that door. You better not come back out. Right, and then it was out. So, it was I had a good positive thing. Right, so these words that we use these days, like, I don't know, any words of positivity. Right, I didn't know those words, but I saw actions.
Wow. Yeah.
So actions is what spoke to me.
Yeah.
So didn't use a lot of fancy words. But you got shoes, you got boots on, and then you try to whine about, hey, my man wearing nice shoes, and hey, look, you got a pair of shoes on. Well, I didn't have no shoes, right? And you would hear these stories.
Right.
So for me, it was have no complaints. That was good for me. It's and all the rest of my friends didn't have their fathers around, right? So it was learning that, and then you would see the mothers. They'd be very angry, right? The slightest thing the child would do wrong, she's fisticuffs all over that child.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, well, why, right? So I guess she's trying to figure that if I put my hands on you, it'll make you a man. That doesn't necessarily make you a man, put my hands on you, right?
Right.
And this is what I would see mothers do to overcompensate for not having a man in their lives,
Yep,
right?
definitely.
And some children, they grow up to, I got to beat everybody up now. Like, what? I'm not the one, but you go find somebody else, right? And you can see that,
Yeah.
right? So, so that's my upbringing for me.
Definitely. I want to pitch it to the sons, right? You guys aren't dads yet. Hello, glory to God. But you guys had fathers or didn't have fathers. What was your experiences with dads? And don't be afraid because he's sitting here. Just tell the truth. What was it like growing up with your dad, and how can you see that it's beginning to shape your manhood?
Everything was good. Like how he said, like I've never known not having him here. And even like when I started to grow up and kind of hear about some of my friends who didn't have their dads or didn't have their moms, it's like, I don't know what that's like. And it's something I now became grateful for now when I'm growing up and now I'm talking to him more every day, asking him questions, stuff I'm learning from him.
Yeah.
Learning from him, like he'll, the other day, just stop me and say, listen, and then he'll talk to me about something. Or things I'll just watch him do. And that's what a lot of it is now, watching them do. And now, especially with my nieces here, it's like stuff I'm doing around them that, like, that's more of a fatherly thing, not like an uncle type of thing.
Okay.
But I picked it up from him and picked it up from my mom. And it's like, okay, these are things now I kind of realize, okay, I'm going to take it now into the future.
Yeah.
Eventually, if I have kids, it's like, and I'm grateful for that now, to have him here and to learn from him both, when he tells me stuff and just subconsciously just to see how he acts and see how he does things.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've learned. Is like I think fathers set future, right? That's why Archbishop was so important to so many of us. The things that I'm doing now, Bishop spoke this stuff to me years before. When I'm just like, I'm not even interested in full-time ministry. He spoke that fathers are always seeing into the future. Let's do TJ, and then we come back to Caleb. Now I know your father's a cop, but I'm here. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
No, I was gonna get into that. I'd say like one of the biggest things from that is definitely like seeing his consistency.
Okay.
Because obviously, there's long nights that he may work, and like growing up, there'd be nights where he wouldn't be there, or like I won't see him in the morning. But I can't say there hasn't been an important thing in my life that he's missed.
Well,
like he's been there for birthdays, graduation, high school, middle. He's been there for all of that, and like that's very important for a child, like from either parent. You definitely want them to be there for you, and something you can rely on.
Good, excellent, Caleb.
One word that majority everybody said is consistency. So my dad was definitely consistent, always there. One thing that I'm pretty sure everybody knows this. As I grew up as a child, one thing I was mainly into was sports. All the teams I was on, my dad was probably the coach, or he
Probably so.
he had a voice in it like he was the coach or something. But literally, like just that alone, like with him being there, like it really does make a difference, because that moral support, you may not feel like you get it from somebody else. You may not have, like other family members and stuff like that. But just knowing that you have that moral support from the same gender, because I feel like it's different. I have 4 sisters and a mom, so I'm in a household with mad women. Like growing up in a household with mad women, and then it's just like, hey, like imagine if I didn't have my dad, my brother probably would have been totally different. My mannerisms, who knows? But it just simply,
What?
who knows? But just basically that consistency is definitely very key. Because a lot of times, what we often hear is that just because all guys supposed to do is provide, bring in money, just be there, and if they do that, then that's that. When I necessarily feel like, or I'm learning now, like that's not enough. And I heard all you say as well, and I applaud you for that. Because I feel like also there's an emotional side that comes with being a guy that we really don't touch on, but I feel like it's very needed or necessary.
Yeah, definitely.
So with y'all spending time, being consistent, and doing the bonding, having the conversations, that time is also a connection that we're building emotionally as well, which I feel like is very necessary.
Yeah.
For me, my dad was obviously not there. Obviously, maybe not obvious, but he wasn't there. So for me, I'm still kind of processing it, but it kind of the first thing that comes to mind is the power of choice, wanting to do better. Because all I've seen, or the lack thereof, is him not being there. I probably met him twice, once on a street corner, and the other time I can barely remember the thing, but knowing that in the future I want to make a better choice than he did, and that's probably one thing that he did, like teach me, because of his actions. I'm like, I can do opposite of that to make my future better, and it may not seem like a lot, but it teaches me what not to do.
Yeah.
Which is a whole 360 on someone's life. Cause you can, like Unc said, you can choose either to continue the path or choose to do opposite. And I choose to do opposite.
Yeah, that's it doesn't seem like not a lot to you, but that's a very powerful thing, because it could be a very bad situation for you, but you're turning it to, this is what happened, but this is what I'll do. I'll be better. Yeah. So that's amazing. That's amazing. Based off of your experiences, right? What do we need to do as dads, especially black dads? I think personally, black dads really get a bad rap. I really, really believe that. What do we need to do better as black dads? What makes us better fathers? What could make us a better father?
Love, showing more love towards our children.
So let's walk through what love means. So that's a pretty broad that's a very general statement. So what you mean by love?
Being there for them when they need you, not trying to rush through a conversation with them, but taking your time, spending time, and giving them clear thoughts on what you think they should do. But sometimes we as children can make wrong decisions. But if our father was to tell us which way we ought to go or how we ought to do things, maybe we might see things a little different.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So love is on the list, definitely. What you got, Unc?
Honesty, because it's kind of hard to be able to say that let me again phrase it. We came from a generation that didn't apologize.
That's true.
I felt like I wanted to break that because I always said to both of them, being a man, one is admitting that you're wrong, and two, apologizing for what you did wrong. So I felt like that's the hardest thing for men to do, because I've watched situations where I'm like, so if you apologize, it won't make you less than a man.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, men felt like, no, I'm not apologizing. Yeah. I'm not, So I watch relationships that if a dad would have just really just said, yo, that was my bad, would have changed the whole. If he'd have went in and apologized to his wife, apologized to his family and say, yo, I got it. I had it crazy. I've had that happen. And because I was able to talk to my family, they were all very supportive of me. Didn't know how it would come out. It could have been that it would have went bad. But at that point, I knew I would make it worse if I wouldn't own up to it.
Yeah.
So I think if we can apologize, if Ethan and Evan can hear you at times say, guys, come here, I came in, I had a bad day or whatever. Y'all was trying to talk to me, and I just kind of dismissed y'all. What do y'all want to hear now? You watch their face just go, because it's like, wow, Dad apologized to us. You might even hear them go by the room and one of them say, yo, I didn't think he was going to apologize.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, the child is looking at you knowing you're wrong. They know you're wrong. So for you now to it just makes it worse when you won't apologize and just say, yo, that was my bad.
Yeah.
And who was it that said it? Just putting the arm around them and just really breaking down to be able to say, yo, that was my bad. I'm so sorry about
Right.
that. Would make to
Yeah,
me.
but the thing about honesty, though, and I think this is the thing we got to be really mindful of, it takes self-awareness. And a lot of people who aren't honest because they haven't taken a moment to self-evaluate. It's just easier for me to be like, go get a good night's sleep, and when y'all wake up in the morning, we won't feel the same. But those feelings, I've learned, they carry over. They come somewhere.
Yes.
They sometimes show up in the way we interact with our children, the way we interact on our jobs, the way we interact with our wives, our spouses. Like, it's definitely a place that you got to be honest. But you got to be self-aware. So love, self-awareness, love. What was the first one you said? Honesty. Thank you. Honesty, self-awareness, love. What you guys got?
Yeah, I mean, self-awareness is where I was thinking because, I mean, for me, having a daughter is definitely a very different interaction, in my opinion, than having a son, because you also have to deal with, other different emotions. Maybe the tone of how you may say something may change or shape, how
Very
things
true.
are. And so, growing up and having my dad and, my sisters and everything like that, seeing how he dealt with them, and then now having my daughter, young person now, it's like way totally different. So I had to really, there were times where I really had to like step back and be like, well, maybe that wasn't the best way to handle that, or maybe that wasn't the best way to say that. And even though they may hear the fact that what you're saying is honest, what you're saying is, you're hearing what they're saying, you're taking in their emotions, you're taking in everything. Sometimes it's just the way you say it. Sometimes it's the fact that maybe I needed for you to, I needed to speak with you right then and there, right, and you weren't available. So just being self-aware of who your children are, what they are, their personalities, and different things like that. I think that just helps shape everything better.
Yeah. What you got, Steph?
I was gonna say, I think just one thing is just letting go, like cutting out the ego that most black men, just black men, period, and then of just trying to be, and then a black man that's a father, but you gotta try to first thought is like, I gotta provide for everybody, and I gotta go out and go get it. I ain't got time to do all this. Or it's like, okay, you sacrifice time with family or time with children because you're trying to go get it and make sure everybody's good. And so now you bring that home, and then a lot of times it's like, okay, you don't even mean to, but you end up pushing the kid away or pushing the family away because it's like, all right, I've been working all day. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I got to think about the next day and how I'm going to go get it. And then a lot of times it's just like, that's just like that ego of like, okay, I'm a black man in America and I got 2.5 strikes against me already.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I'm trying my hardest not to get that last half a strike. And so a lot of times like the kids pay for that because it's like, okay, I mean, I don't mean to, but I'm tired. I got to think about this. So go to bed. I'll deal with that later. And then when you do that consistently over 18, 19 years, you look up and then it's like the kids is like, that's what they get used to, and then that's what they see. And so it's like cutting that ego so that cycle goes away. I think that's what we could do better.
I think also we do a horrible job at being honest about the pressure of being a black man, because we are taught that we have to be providers even if it kills us. And what happens is some of us have died with that understanding. So I think we never really address it, and America's really, really bad at it. We don't address the pressures of being a man, being a black man, being a father, because egos are developed from pressure. Like, that's why so many of us, like, tense. You see people walking around that's so unhappy. You have no idea that this guy is trying to figure out, how am I going to feed my family for the next month? I'm tired, but I have to go to work. I'm tired, but, like, we don't let black men say that they're tired, because they're not supposed to be tired. You're supposed to just keep working. And I think that's where ego comes from. It's definitely something important that we gotta. But how you fix it is you have spaces like this where you relieve the stress of black men. Let people know it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be in need. It's okay to ask for help. You know what I mean? So that's definitely important. Trev, what you got?
Like everybody's saying, I've had times where I had to deal with my son. Like, I'll talk to him, and I know for sure that I ripped his head off, like just snatched his head out of his body, off the spine, everything. Like, and then I would have to go to him and be like, yo, I ain't mean to come at you that way. It's just because for me, it goes from I have to also understand that he's not going to be receptive to what I was receptive to growing up.
Yeah.
Like, I was okay with Bishop chopping my head off and serving up on a platter and then just dealing with it like that. That was the era that we were brought up in. My grandfather was the same way. He was heavy with the hand, soft with the words. It wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't a whole lot of Care Bear stuff. It was either you gonna get this punishment or not. So, but I have to understand, like, dealing with my own children, like they're not me. They can't deal with what I was dealing with growing up. So I have to learn how to discipline them, how to speak to them. Like, and my thing is now, like, I just speak to them like I can make the conversation quick, or we could if because me, I'm not a long talker. I can't do the whole sitting down for 3 hours talking. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm gonna go straight to the point, and that's gonna be that. Like, even people call me, I say, "What do you want?" I don't say hello. What do you want? Just get to the point. Like, so I tell them, like, we can have a quick conversation, or if it's something that you can't talk about, just text me and we'll go through text. I know that it may feel better for him to go through text. So whatever makes you comfortable to deal with the situation, we could deal with it that way. So, like you said, you got to have honesty, love, and for black men, it's just like you said. There's a lot of pressure that black men, you have to be. Man. We all think that we gotta provide. That's our job. I gotta be the provider. If I'm home with the family, then I'm taking away from money for the family. If I'm out getting money for the family, I'm taking away from time for the family. So it's a tough thing that people don't understand, but you deal with it and you go to sleep with that weight and that pressure. Like, all right, what could I do tomorrow to advance my family further so they don't have to worry about what I had to worry about growing up. So, but it's a lot on black men being a father as well. So.
Yeah, but being president, it helps. I tell the story all the time to Malik and them about me being at the table with my kids, my children, and my wife. Everybody's laughing, and I'm at the table, and I can't figure out what they're laughing at. Because I'm there, I'm present, but I'm not available to the conversation. And that thing broke my heart. And I realized, and I said to Melissa, like, I don't want to take what I go through out on my children. They don't deserve that. But as black men, we try to, like, keep it in, but it comes out somewhere. And that moment changed my life. And I mean, they were dying laughing at the table, and I was like, what just happened? Like, where am I? Where's my mind?
Sensitivity too.
Yeah.
Children today doesn't have the type of skin that we had when we were growing up.
And it doesn't make them weak.
It doesn't make them weak. But when we was coming up, we get cut up. Anything can happen. Your father can say something to you, and you take it the wrong way, but you had to move on with it. Today, you hurt a kid's feeling if you say the things that we had to go through.
Yeah, it's true.
And then they mad at you, and you don't know why you're mad, but all you're trying to do is correct them.
Yeah, true.
They don't write a book on you and
Yeah.
start a podcast.
Yes.
I think also though it's made black men have to be a little bit more intelligent because now instead of roaring, we have to think about how we have to have a conversation. So it's made us have to like read stuff and like really take time to think about stuff. We become intelligent because of it. You know what I mean? I've never experienced that. I mean, Bishop was rough with me about attire stuff. Like he was very hard on me about clothes. Very hard on me about clothes. But like most of all, he was pretty nice to me. What you have, Deke?
Nothing. I mean, you covered it all. I don't want to.
Okay, so is there anything you all will honestly admit that you did wrong?
Oh, I would have to. It'd be a while.
I don't. That's the way he messed up. What Shaq told him, he said, "Kitty, do me a favor, go back to 1 2." I know it is a lot of stuff I did wrong, and I'm looking back at it and I'm realizing I did wrong. And I know it doesn't rehab. We do it teasingly to Stephon because he was the oldest. And there's times we'll be on the phone, me and Sandy and stuff, and I'll bring it up. And we'll laugh about it. But I can tell he's like, okay, there's a few more. We'll get to them when the time comes that we'll say. But I think that was the thing because because we're in a transitionary period. Like where we are, my generation got a bit of that rough side. But then I'm also being conditioned by this side. Now, like he said, I can shut it down and just go by because as much as we are praising Archbishop was very much a no-nonsense person too.
Yeah.
So a lot of times he made sure that we, as men, we didn't take no nonsense, we wasn't soft or whatever. But like you said, it doesn't make us soft to listen to what they have to say and to realize they didn't grow up in our era. I think that's the biggest thing that is missing the two generations. Their generation is not really trying to hear my stories of what I grew up under, and my generation is not taking time to learn. You just said that, to be educated.
We have to be educated. I think also Bishop had such a duality to him where he could be harsh, but he also would match that hardness with love. He could cut you so bad, but want to spend time with you. He would sometimes correct you and be crying. And I'm going, I want to be mad, but because you're so emotional while you're doing this, I'm not mad because he corrected you because he loved you. And I think that's the part that's missing in a lot of places. Some people are correcting you just to be right? Correcting people so that you can control them. Bishop corrected you because he loved you. And that's one of the things that I try to teach my sons is like Malik, Adrian also like I'm doing this because I love y'all and I see so much better for y'all than what you could ever imagine. You know what I mean? What's other some things that you would admit that you honestly got wrong and you could do different? I know Sai is only with 2.
He 3, but no,
3.
I realize now because he has a little personality.
Yes, sir.
Like he do stuff that just get on my nerves. But I realize now is that like he's like the kid mentality of like he did something wrong, you correct him, and like 2 seconds later he like ready to jump on you, and I'm still mad. I'm still holding on to it. Like yo, why you not listening? But kind of like what you said to like how Bishop was, where it was like he would chastise you and then be like, let's go out and eat.
Yeah,
and it's like how he could like let that go. So it's like I'm just learning now, even at that young age, to catch it now before he gets older. That like okay, if he do something wrong, like let that be that moment, but don't hold on to it. Where now I'm frustrated with him, I'm mad at him because he's not listening, and he ready to like just jump and play it again, and then that grows up. He becomes Buster's age now, and now like he decided to do something, and I'm like mad at him, and I'm just holding on to it versus like letting it be and then being able to move on. So that's something that I'm trying to learn to get better at the early age.
And also realizing that you serve as his example.
Yeah.
Right? So what we see our fathers do, don't see our fathers do, is what happens in our life, what we mirror or what we don't mirror, but it's a part of our interactions. What else that you guys got wrong that you would admit, like, I wish I didn't do it like that. I wish I remember one time Bishop honestly addressing us about MySpace, and he ripped us. I mean, went through our pages and I remember him saying to me, one of his biggest regrets is the way he handled us on MySpace. And I thought to myself, that is very interesting. He said, because I didn't take time to even understand what it really was. Someone had influenced him and showed him stuff, and he just flew off the handle. But there were a lot of people who were hurt by the way he handled it. And to hear him admit, like, man, if I had a chance, I would do that. I would do that differently. You know, what you guys have? You have anything like that, Trev?
I'm weird. I don't think I did nothing wrong. not saying that I didn't. That I never did anything wrong. But my thing is, if I corrected it, would I messed up what God has in store for him? So going back and changing anything, would that alter what God wants for him? My biggest thing is like, yeah, he's my son, but I don't want him to be me. I want him to be who he is. I'm me. I need him to be who he's going to be, who God intends him to be. Yes, he has my name, but I need him to go and cast his own shadow, make his own impact on the world. I don't need him to go and be step in rooms and they just say, oh, that's such and such son. No, I need him to step in rooms and they say, oh, that's him.
Yeah.
They're not looking at him because of me. They're looking at him because of him and the works that he's going to do or the works that he's already done. So I don't want to go and mess up anything that God has planned for him. So I wouldn't change or alter anything because, like I said, I'm weird. It happened because it was supposed to happen to shape him to be who he's going to be in life.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you going to say, D?
So for me, it would be I tend to overreact, right? So just
Okay.
starting at zero,
That's
I
honest.
try to get it over with, right? I don't want to play around, go from 1 to 9 and build it up. I don't want that. So my daughter and my wife have got me to, hey, my man, look, before you get to 9, how about we just go to 2? And then, then we can go back down to 1 again, right? But I'm like, I'm just going right to 9. And this comes from me being at work. This comes from me being in the military. There is no, hey, let's kumbaya. No, foot and butt, keep it moving, and that's it, right? So even for me now at work, I'm the same thing at work. It's like I'm not bull in that china shop, right? Because I can't coddle grown men. And that's one of my issues, right? If you're a grown man, hey, look, you did wrong, and at work we don't do this like, I'm sorry. No, okay, then don't look at me and say I'm sorry. I'm just gonna move on, right? So I learned to at work I could be that bull, and at home, dial it back, right? And put on sneakers and walk gently and figure things out, right?
Yeah.
So that's I've learned to do that. My daughter
Women are
has
good
guided me
teachers of that type
towards
of
that.
stuff.
My wife has guided me towards that, and that's how I've learned to do that at home. But at work, I ain't got no time for that. I don't. That's
All right,
me.
we're wrapping it up. I want to hear from the sons. We talked about the responsibility of a father. What are responsibility of sons to their father, if there are any? What is your responsibility to your dad as a son?
Can I say something here?
No.
You know what? Okay.
We'll do last. You'll do last. I want to hear from them first. What is the son? Because we always talk about the father. What's the son's responsibility to their dad?
So like you just give one word.
Whatever.
I'll just give one. I would say accountability. And now I feel like this gets tricky because like how does a young person keep somebody older or my father in a sense accountable, especially if he's never he never had a father before him. He never had that sense of accountability. So for me, I would say accountability because hey, like if I'm supposed to grow up to be a man and you're supposed to be the first example for me, you're basically the blueprint of my future, basically of how my character would be. So basically, whatever you do, I feel like it's okay to question, like, hey, like, why would you do that? Like, what was the reasoning? Like, what was the intention? Like, stuff like that behind it, just so that I can have an understanding of, like, the way you move and the way you do things. So for me, it would be accountability.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you said something really powerful. We don't really address the root of where our dads are. Like, what you did may have made me angry, but did you ever take a moment to realize, did your dad have an example? You know what I mean? So that's something very powerful, too. What you got, Bus?
I'm thinking there's more of a thing as I got older, as I'm getting older, is now kind of taking some of the things that he's done for me and now being able to do it for him. Is now, because now like, I've always felt like my dad was there. Like I can talk to him about anything. I can open up to him and say anything. So it's now like always asking him how his day was after work and being able to. Now I feel like I can be there for him if he ever needed it. I know he's older and it's like that's not usually how it goes or how the role is, but that's what I would want it to be now.
Yeah.
But for my dad to be, hey, can I talk to you about something? Which is not usually how it is, but just now as his son, now I'm older to him and being able to do that for him.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Teacher, you still thinking? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like listening, or like being close.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a, not in my case, but from what I've seen from Pastor, being close always it's always a safety net.
Yeah.
You can't fall far if you're close.
Oh man, that's so good.
You can't
That's so good.
you can't be hurt easily if you're close, and I think the responsibility of a father is to protect, but you can't protect something that's really far away, and the son, I think the job of the son is always to remain at the feet of the father, because nothing bad could really happen to you. I mean, life happens, whatever. But if I'm always calling, if I'm always texting, if I'm always like trying to be in your space,
Yep.
you're always gonna be aware that I'm there, and stuff just can't happen to me if I'm close.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the big things about being a son.
What if a father's responsibility is to be present? What if a son's responsibility is the same? Be present for your father. Like, encourage your dad like that. I know it may not seem like you're doing a lot, but thank you. Like, I do see you. I appreciate you. What are you going to say to I saw your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I was thinking something like that, like it's a vice versa type of thing. Like you help me, I help you.
Yeah.
I learn from you. You can learn from me potentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just all. It's a duality, really.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just a experience.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say.
I love that. Be willing to learn from each other. I learned, my son was teaching me about this, what you call teachers and stuff in school. I had no idea. We didn't have stuff like that.
No.
Our teachers was 70 years old, and that was it. He's like, nah, Dad, it's mixed. I'm like, what does that mean? He said, when they don't want to be identified as, I was like, what is that? That's hard for my mind to like comprehend. But you learn every day.
Yeah.
First of all, you should be learning something new every day, period. So yeah, learning from each other is excellent. Who else? Who didn't go? You said you wanted to say something, right?
I did, but you said not to.
No. Go ahead.
Patty.
Well, what I was going to say is no attack here,
Okay.
right? We're in this emotional space. So in that space, we talked about father to son, role of the father, but there's no daughter mentioned here. He has a daughter. He has a daughter. I have a daughter. Right, so I shared with you how to learn from my daughter, and my wife has guided me. I shared that. So it would be interesting to see. So let me give you a little backdrop. My father grew up in an abusive household,
Okay.
not a positive household. So he shared a story with me once about, I must have been 7, if not the earliest 5. And he says, you have no idea what it's like to grow up the way I grew up. I'm like, you're right, I don't.
Right.
And he shared it with me at that same moment.
Right.
How his father was always all over him. So now I grew up and I see they're not close as they got older, right? But they have a relationship that's established, but it's not combative. So I learned from my father to do the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Instead of me putting foot to butt all the time for any reason that I choose to, then I better have a good reason why I'm laying hands on you. Not just
Right.
because I had a hard day at work, not because
Right,
I
right.
had this hostile environment, but it had to make sense. So those are things that I learned from my father about. So somewhere here now in my story, I digress from where I was going to go, I believe.
Yeah,
but
I believe that too.
Stop right there.
The conversation wasn't just geared towards sons, their sons. So that's why I was saying that. Because I have 2 daughters also. So so that's not what I meant. They were sons. So that's what we were talking about. I want to touch on one more topic and then we're done. Affection. I think Deke talked about it, like hugging. How important is that as black men to hug and to like, because we have over machinized, that's the word? Over machinized?
We understand what
You know what I mean. We have, everything is just overly macho, but how important is it to show affection to your sons and your daughters? Like, to the day, I will still kiss Ethan and Evan on top of the heads before they go. They're getting to the age where they're like, all right, Dad, don't do that around people. but like, I want to be like that to them. And it's different with daughters, I think.
I'm gonna jump in before Pete jumps in.
Yeah, please.
So for me, having a daughter, it's very important for her to see affection from her father.
Okay.
And I love giving her the affection, right? So I love that. So what that did for me, it opened up a door even now for honesty and conversation. So when you see the love, there's honesty behind it, there's truth, and now we can move in this direction now. How we get there now, that tends to vary, but there's that open conversation, that foundation to start something.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut you off. With the affection thing, like you said, I have a daughter. She I got to do my part in it.
Yeah, we need more of that. My nephew is someone who I'm guessing his dad doesn't have that type of. So when he's around me and my boys, I always see him like sort of watching it because I'm like that with my kids until I finally would greet him and he would give me a handshake. And I'm your uncle, like I don't do handshakes, like hug me. And my sister's like, yo, you have no idea how much he appreciates that. A hug can sometimes change people's life, man. What about sons? Is that important to you all?
I remember when I think we had like Sunday school, and we were so afraid of saying "I love you."
Yes, you were.
We thought it was so weird.
They thought I was so strange to say. Adrian especially, I was like, "I love you." He was like, because no one had ever said. But Bishop, like we grew up with. Bishop, I love you, son. I'm proud of you.
Yes.
Like that was something we heard. But him and Adrian actually in particular was like. Almost recalling a little bit, like why is he saying that? But I did love it, and I meant it. And now we don't have conversations where we end the conversation and don't say I love you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I hope it helped.
No, it did.
How's it with Sai with being 3? Does it matter?
The affection?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it matters. Yeah. I mean, like I said, like between me and Courtney, like Courtney's like the rules, and I'm like the fun. So it's like,
that's exactly what I would have guessed.
So it matters, yeah. Like the jumping on my back, like he'll wake up in the morning, like we'll wake up. Somehow he ends up in our bed. I don't know, but we'll wake up and like he will wake up, and it's like I have to put him on my back to take him downstairs. Like he just looks forward to stuff like that.
Yeah, those moments are everything, man.
So but the affection, even at that age, it definitely matters.
Yeah, those moments are everything. You guys want to Deke? Anybody have? Yeah.
On top of like the hugging, saying I love you, how you just said I'm proud of you is something that I think about all the time. That's what he tells me all the time. And now I'm trying to step into my own, going through college. At times I didn't want to go through college, and just different things I didn't want to do. Didn't know how I'm gonna keep going or find the motivation to keep going. Felt like I was stagnating and stuff. But just to hear him say I'm proud is like that's what I needed to keep going.
Wow.
And then the next opportunity comes, and it's like. It's just grateful for each moment now. Every time you say it, it just makes me smile and I'm just happy.
Yeah, I love that. But and you bank those joints. Like when you feel sad, you know what I mean? I remember my dad told me he's proud. And it helps you kind of move forward. All right, any lasting thoughts? I've kept y'all long enough. Woman gotta go to work. He's like already eyeing me. What?
I'm enjoying this.
You good?
Yes.
Anybody else have anything you want to add? We need to create more safe spaces like this where we can just talk and just have these moments. Each and every one of you, I admire y'all so much. That's why I had you up here. It's not just because you are in the church. It's because I've watched you over the years. I've watched your growth. I've watched how you are with your wives, with your children, and it's honorable, man. And I want to encourage you. You are examples. You guys really breathe strength into this church. So thank y'all for what y'all do. And let's continue to just bond and connect and make things better. I appreciate it. All right, I love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Let us know how you like this episode. Put your comments, all that great engagement. I'm Pat Mel, Podcast Room.